It's Monday, March 18th, 2024, and this is episode 305 of You Can Bet On That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet On That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. I'm Mark Duvall.
And I'm Dr. Mike.
Dr. Mike, finally, we have some gambling reports for the listeners.
Yes.
Amazing. We actually went out and gambled.
Yeah, I was in town for just, day and a half?
Yeah, very briefly, and we'll talk about that in a second. We'll talk about why we didn't mention it on the show. But about a week and a half ago, listener James, he said he was going to be in Southern California. And on Twitter, he said something like, I wonder if I'll be able to meet up with Mark. And I said, yeah, let me know. And I think he was thinking like, oh, really? Okay, well, then I guess I better make plans to meet up with Mark. Anyway, it was Thursday night. I couldn't believe this. He flew from Florida. He doesn't live in Florida, but he was there for spring training. Flew from Florida to Los Angeles via O'Hare. That's a lot of time in the air or at the airport. Then he said he had to wait like an hour for his rental car at LAX. And then he drove to Harrah's, which is well over an hour drive, maybe closer to 2. When he arrived, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, James, you probably just want to go straight to bed, right? He said, no, I'm good. So anyway, we met up at Harrah's, Southern California. I got there a little bit before he did and started up. They had just one craps table open. Oh, by the way, they got rid of their roll to win table.
Finally.
Yeah, so they don't have that anymore. They replaced it with another regular craps table, so that's good. But they only had one table open. It was a $15 minimum table. I played a little bit before he got there, and it was going very well. When he arrived, I said, here, make some room here. He sidled up to the table, and wouldn't you know it, the very first shooter for him hit the all. And James had 555 on it. I didn't have anything, of course. But what a great way to start. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to be up for the rest of this session.
Right.
So, Mike, this all, I do want to talk about it a little bit. The shooter needed the 2 and the 8 to make them all. So he hadn't hit the small or the tall yet. The shooter rolled the 2, and everybody's like, woo, okay, and they're getting paid off there.
He just needs an 8.
Just needs an 8. Have you ever been on a table where the final number, not just the high or low, the final number is a 6 or an 8? You probably have.
Yes, I have. I think twice we missed it with a 6, and I can't tell you how many times we've missed it with a 5.
So all we needed was the 8. Mike, I cannot tell you how much money was laid against that 8. So many people laid money against the 8. And James and I are talking about I would never do that. I understand, hedging like that, you're guaranteed a win. But the all small tall, it comes up a lot. And I think, just take the wins. And the casino's probably loving it, right? More action for them. Well, the very next roll was an 8. So the casino collects, it must have been about $3,000 from behind the 8. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then paid everybody off for the tall and the all. So anyway, the table was very happy, but I've never seen that much money laid against a single number for the all. And usually, it's a 4 or 10, maybe a 5 or 9. It's usually not a 6 or an 8, just because those are so much more likely to come up. But I was a little surprised.
Right. The way I look at that is, even if it's a 4 or a 10, if it hits, it hits.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It got bonus money. I don't know. I
don't want to discourage people from playing how they like to play. And I certainly understand it, right? You're guaranteeing a win one way or the other.
Right.
It's just with that, the all comes up. We've talked about it before, how when it comes to the fire bet, that could be a once in a lifetime thing, hitting the 6 numbers on the fire for you. So maybe you hedge that, right? Even if it is a 6 or an 8.
Right.
But, yeah.
Well, and also, if you're a real gambler, you don't want to just win. You want to win the most you possibly can, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, okay, I want to win the most I can. And the most I can is just letting it hit.
Well, you could argue that winning the most you can would be to hedge it, lay it, and then when a 7 comes up, you won the most you could because you laid against that number. So I'm just saying, be careful with your words, Dr. Mike.
Well, yeah, I suppose that's true. But you won't hit the all if it never comes
Yeah,
up.
I know what you're saying. I definitely know what you're saying. So anyway, we were playing there. The table was a little bit crowded, and they opened up another table. So I said to James, "Oh, let's move over there. Let's go change." And so we moved over to a table where William was dealing. Now, Dr. Mike, what happens when you move to a table where William is dealing?
You automatically lose all your money.
Yeah, it's an automatic loss. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
William's such a nice guy,
I know.
but we had such a hard time winning with him. And especially if we were up and things were going good, then all of a sudden just boom, bad.
So I don't mind saying this on the show because I know he doesn't listen. You know why? Because he said, "Hey, are you and Dr. Mike still doing your show?" So,
Yeah. Okay.
If
so
he's
that-
asking, I'm thinking maybe he's not listening. Anyway, James and I moved over there. It wasn't quite as bad as usual, but it definitely, we started to lose, and it's like, all right, let's stop. So we didn't lose everything that we'd won at the previous table. So we said, hey, let's just call it. Let's go get something to eat. We ate at one of their new fast food places called Best of Cluck, which is a chicken place. We both got chicken fingers. It is really hard to beat Raising Cane's chicken fingers.
yeah.
I mean, they're so good. And these weren't as good, but they did have we got the spicy kind. They did have a pretty good spice on them, like a New Orleans spice. So they were good. I ate them all up. And then we're thinking, well, what should we do next? And James was talking about carnival games. I said, let's go see what carnival games they have open. And the one table where there was plenty of room, because nobody was playing there, was Let It Ride. I said,
your favorite.
All right, I'll play a little Reddit. Mike, when's the last time I played Let It Ride? It's probably been 25 years, like when the game first came out.
Right. At least that.
I remember driving home from Vegas, and Paul's in the car, and the whole time it's Let It Ride. We sat and played a little Let It Ride. I had to have James help me with basic strategy because I certainly didn't know it. I pulled up the Wizards page real quick, but he kept me in line. I actually ended up winning, like $150. Hit some threes of a kind and what have you. So played a little Let It Ride. Then just called it a night. And then James drove back to Orange County. He was attending a conference there, I believe. So it was great to see him, and it was a winning session and good all around.
Yeah, and drive all that way, it was worth his while.
Yeah, I was really glad that since after that long trip and driving out, just to see me, which I really appreciate. He found out about our show from Crap Vegas. He was telling me that when he did a search on the internet, I think he searched for like Vegas podcasts or something, and they came up first. And then he found out about us from them. So really nice seeing him. So yeah, Mike, you actually came out here to San Diego very briefly. The reason we didn't mention it on the last show was because really you were coming out just to see your dad.
Right. Yeah, I was coming to visit them, my mom and dad, and especially my dad. It was like a last minute thing too. I left on Friday, and I think I bought the ticket like Wednesday night or something.
Yeah, and we certainly didn't know if and when you'd be available to do any kind of gambling.
Right. Yeah. But I did get some time when my dad was sleeping. We did go out and went to Hamul.
Yeah, we didn't want to go all the way up to Harrah's because the drive.
It's too far.
Like an hour.
Plus, if I had to get home,
you wanted to be fairly close. Plus, we had heard something about Hamul earlier in the week from one of our listeners. And I was talking to the dealers up at Harrah's about it, and they were confirming it. Let's talk about this. All right, California. The law says that all table games have to be based on cards. And so the spirit of the law really was to prevent casinos from dealing things like craps and roulette. And the casinos have gotten around the law by creating craps and roulette that are based on cards. And when they first started doing it in California, they had these very clever ways of doing it with cards, especially when it came to craps. And gradually, almost every casino has adopted this style where you still get to roll dice, but there are 6 rectangles on the table, and they shuffle cards, ace through 6, before every shooter, and place these cards in these rectangles. The rectangles represent the pips on the dice, and when they're rolled, you don't look at the total of the pips. You look at the rectangles corresponding to the pips and what cards are there. So you could roll a 3-4 on the dice, but then the cards at locations 3 and 4 might be 2-6.
Right.
So the roll is an 8.
Yeah. And so most of the time, the dealers out there, when somebody's new, they'll say, just look at the cards, whatever cards they push
Don't
up.
even look at the dice.
Don't even look at the dice. And then, of course, somebody has to look at the dice to make sure they're pushing the right cards.
Yes.
Because that has happened.
We have seen where they've pushed the wrong cards.
But anyway, yeah, it's just basically whatever cards they push out.
So we heard a rumor that Hamul was not shuffling the cards, but in fact putting the ace in the 1 rectangle, the deuce in the 2 rectangle, the tray in the 3 rectangle, and all so on up to the 6 in the 6 rectangle, and just leaving them there. So that when you roll the dice, sure enough, whatever comes up on the dice is what is on the cards.
Yeah.
And we're thinking, oh my gosh, this is really pushing the law, right? The interpretation of the law. Is it still based on cards? And we're thinking, how are they going to get away with this? Well, we did find out that if a shooter wants them to shuffle the cards before their roll, they will. So it's still based on cards. It's just that for most shooters, the cards are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Right.
And sure enough, that's what. And while we were there, Mike, there was a guy who a couple of times wanted them to shuffle the cards.
And it did not work out well.
It didn't work out.
That's what's funny. He rolled 4 times, I think, while we were there. And the 3rd and 4th time he rolled, he left them the same and had pretty decent rolls. And the 2 times he shuffled them were like immediate outs or something.
I would never ask for a shuffle because you kind of do look stupid if it's a bad roll.
Bad roll,
but I was
right.
thinking about it, Mike. This is actually better than Vegas craps because you can have one or the other.
Right. If you're some guy who doesn't like dice, you're a blackjack player and you have great luck with cards, I'll shuffle them.
So anyway, we played there for a good chunk of time playing, they advertise it as Vegas style craps. Yeah. So it was real craps. Now,
I think the way they get around it, Mark, if you notice, not all of them, but a fair amount of dealers, when they were on the stick, they would still push the cards forward.
They'd still push the cards forward. 2-5 on the dice. They'd push the 2 and the 5.
2 and the 5.
They'd do it. And I don't blame them, right? Because they're trying to stay within the law. And, if the sheriff's department comes out, they're saying, look, we're still based on cards.
Yeah, that technically is. It's still based on those cards, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
You just changed your rule about when you shuffle.
Right.
All.
Now, again, the spirit of the law is being circumvented here. There's no question about it. But what's the letter of the law? I'm no lawyer, but we've got real craps, quote unquote, out here in
maybe they
area.
figure that until some official has a problem with it, they're just going to do it.
Right.
Because probably nobody will have a problem with it. And if they did, are they willing to spend all the money to litigate that and stuff?
Well, I don't think they would. They'd just stop doing it and go back to the way that was before, depending on whether there was any kind of prosecution. I don't know.
But
I don't think
the prosecutor want to prosecute, right? It costs them money.
Right. Why would they even
it's like, why, maybe they give them a stern warning. Maybe I'll write a sternly worded letter.
Oh, there you go. That'll help.
To the casino.
Yeah. To the
Recently,
casino.
I was out there and found that you have real craps because you don't reshuffle the cards.
And then tell them how much we lost and say, if you had stayed with the shuffling card way of doing it. So
I'm reporting you to the state of California. Governor Newsom will be hearing about this.
So that's my way of saying it didn't go very well for us while we were there, unfortunately. But we did have a good time. And hey, we saw one of the dealers that used to deal at Harris, Sherry, the dealer. We probably talked about her on the show before. Had no idea that she worked there. And she was there, so that was great. Unfortunately, she wasn't at the table very long, and she was out the other side of the table. But we talked to her for a little bit, so it was great seeing her again.
Yes, it was very nice. Part of the old gang.
Yeah. So good to see you for a little bit, Dr. Mike. Sorry.
Yeah, we had fun.
Money didn't go very well. And like you said, it's probably your fault. Because the last two times I played with James, I played with the poker guys in Vegas. It's just been fantastic.
Yeah, it's whenever I'm standing next to you that you lose.
Yeah, I agree with you now. Now, on our last episode, we talked about a relatively new carnival game called Three Shot Poker. And Dr. Mike, you were asking where it's currently being played. I should have done a little research before the show last time because it was right there on the internet. But anyway, if you're in Las Vegas, at least this was back in November they started there. I assume it's still at these two casinos. Harrah's and Flamingo are both dealing three-shot poker. Yes.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
And contrary to what we speculated last time, remember we were thinking that maybe the dealer turns over one of the community cards and then processes everybody's bets and then goes on to the second card. No, the dealer turns over all three community cards and goes and settles all of one player's three different bets and then moves on to the next player. So, you were talking about how slow it is. Yeah, definitely slow. I mean, the dealer has to look and really make sure that they're not messing up. Oh, I'm sorry, you had a pair. Or, I didn't see that straight. Right. So, yeah, it maybe takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, and if you happen to get on a table with some elderly dealer, it might take even longer. It might be a good way to get some drinks for very little money.
Very little money, maybe get paid off when you're not supposed to. Yeah, that kind of thing. So once again, Mike, good advice for our listeners. Look for
the old
dealers. Yeah.
Hey, there are some out there. You want to go right across the street to Caesar's Palace and see the oldest drink attendant in the history of the world.
Yeah, cocktail servers and dealers. The problem is they're all pretty surly, so you kind of have to deal with that as well.
Mark, that comes with age. You've been with me.
Oh, yeah, I certainly know. Going out to the casino with you was an ordeal.
Yeah, surly. Maybe I'll start writing surly worded letters instead of sternly.
Yeah, and surly. So that to me implies that it's going to be a little nonsensical too.
Yeah.
Wait, what's he complaining about?
That was always a given. Right.
Well, Mike, speaking of carnival games, on our last episode, listener Jason said that he stayed in downtown Las Vegas for the Super Bowl, and he noticed that carnival games had disappeared from many of the downtown casinos, with the exception of Golden Nugget. Well, we've gotten quite a bit of feedback saying that, no, carnival games are still alive and well downtown. That certainly makes sense to us from a casino standpoint. They want those games, right? The tables, they might not have packed tables for those games, but there's always a nice house edge, and especially on some of those side bets on those carnival games. So sounds like if you're looking for carnival games, downtown's still an option for you.
Yeah, and if you're elderly, downtown seems to have more elderly people, an older crowd. So, they want those carnival games because they're confusing.
So I don't know if an older crowd is downtown, but certainly a more surly crowd is downtown. Absolutely.
Definitely more surly.
Yeah.
But there's an older group, in some of those downtown casinos that have nightclubs, you see a lot of 70, 80-year-olds lined up, waiting for the club.
I think grizzled elderly is what you find downtown more than anything else.
Waiting for the club to open at 1 p.m. 1 to 4 senior night.
That's right. What do you mean I got the wrong shoes on? That's Tim Dresden with his New Balance shoes trying to get...
That's good.
Hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, please go to our page first. You can bet on that.com and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. All right, let's move on to voicemails. First up is Charlie.
Hi, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Charlie from Iowa. I wanted to mention, I heard something about my last trip to Vegas where we stayed at Circa for part of the trip. And the amenity of having heated pools might make Circa my favorite place to stay in all of Vegas at this point. We stayed at Cosmo on the Strip a couple nights too, but their heated pool is just not quite as hot. But we did jump around, Fremont, the Strip. We rented a car and went to a couple outer casinos like Red Rock and the M Resort. And I would mention the consensus nowadays seems to be a $15 minimum for craps tables at this point, even on, like Tuesday afternoon. It was $15 at most places I saw. So one session that stood out was where a shooter was rolling and called all of his bets off. And this prompted a conversation amongst the rest of the players to say, hey, there should be some kind of button that the dealers can display to the other players to let them know that the shooter called their bets off, so everyone else should call their bets off too. I'm not superstitious at all, so I didn't really entertain the idea of this being useful, but it was funny just to talk about with the other players and thought you guys might have, something to say about it. But other than that, appreciate the podcast. Good luck.
Well, what was the next roll? I want the end of that story.
What's funny is my brother, was in Vegas not too long ago, a few weeks ago. He went with a friend of his, just like kind of on a whim thing. And I think they went on like a Sunday and came back on a Tuesday or something. But he was saying he could not find craps anywhere for less than $15.
And this was just this strip, right?
Yeah, they were on the strip.
Okay.
And it was like Monday, in the middle of the day or Tuesday. And they said everywhere it was 15. And he was hoping to find like a $5 table. I'm like, Christopher, you're not finding that.
He was probably at Center Strip, wasn't he?
Well,
right?
I don't know.
Because I'm thinking if he was down at South Strip, like Excalibur and Park MGM, I bet maybe he would have found some $10 tables down there, but not $5.
Yeah, I know he wasn't down there.
Okay, so I
but
think that's pretty
it's
consistent.
still getting hard to. I mean, I don't know how many people are there on a Tuesday at 8 a.m., but you'd think they'd lower the limits a little so that they could cover any people who might want to try the game, right?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Casinos have it all figured out. Yeah, Charlie, what we'll do, we've talked about how when Dr. Mike and I open a casino, we'll have this huge display at the craps table with all sorts of messages that you have to work through, and that'll be one of them. The shooter has called his bets off. And unfortunately, the messages kind of go by pretty quickly, so you might not even see that message before he rolls, but we'll implement that.
Yeah, that'll be one of the things down on the ticker at the bottom, because that's like, you have to know that right away.
Okay.
So it just flashes by really quick at the bottom. The top will be things like, enjoy our heated pools. Where else can you have heated pools?
That's right.
That kind of stuff.
The cocktail server should be arriving within 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Bet accordingly.
Right. Don't hold us to that.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess different strokes for different folks. I always enjoyed the hot showers, but if heated pool's your thing.
What are you talking about? Hot showers?
Yeah, remember we always said we hated it when the shower didn't get warm enough.
In the hotel room?
In a hotel room, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And that was my big beef, and Charles' big beef is...
I see, because Charlie was talking about heated pools.
Heated pools, yeah.
Thank you. You threw me for a loop here. Yeah, I like when the showers in my room are hot. If that's what you're getting at, Dr. Mike, I guess I would hold that as a higher priority than the heated pools.
Than the heated pools. Well, different strokes for different folks.
Keep me on my toes, Dr. Mike.
Though, seriously, they should all have heated pools, right?
Well,
I mean, it does get cold in Vegas.
Yeah, but is it worth it to them if nobody's going out? If it's too cold, doesn't matter how hot the pool is, right? Nobody's going to be out there.
That's why you got to have these huge heated cabanas. So even when it's 28 degrees out there, they can sit around in their swimsuits and then go into the nice heated pool and play craps.
Yeah. Have you started on the business plan for our casino? I'd like to see
I've got that
initial...
down. I've got that down a little low on the list right now, but it's coming.
All right. Thank you. Next call.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Tony from Jamestown. Just a question for you. A lot of opinions on, hey, I like a fast craps game, I like a slow craps game. Your thoughts on this topic? Personally, I go to craps for the vibe of the table. I'm looking for a happy table with happy shooters. If you want to just grab the dice and wing them down there and that makes you happy and the table's vibing good, that's it. You're my guy. If you want to roll them against the wall 14 times and then take 12 seconds to set them and then throw them down there. Hey, if we're doing well and the mood is good, have at it. I'm just going to sip my drink and move on. How do you like it? How do you like to play at the craps table?
All right. Tony said he was going to ask the Crap Vegas boys the same question. I think I know what they're going to say. But I kind of look at this as two separate questions. Now, what do we prefer, a slow game or a fast game? Well, we prefer a fast game.
Yes.
But it's way more important to us that we have a good crew, that the vibe is good, not because that's going to affect the dice, just because we're going to enjoy ourselves more.
Right.
Yeah, fun players at the table. That's the most important thing. And as long as that's happening, we're not sitting there gritting our teeth because the game's not going quickly. We're still having a good time. So that's more important to us. Everything else being even, yeah, we'd prefer a fast game.
Right. If you're at two tables that both have a good vibe and, you're having a good time, I'd prefer it be fast.
Yeah.
But if one table was a bunch of happy people who aren't winning and the other table was some surly guy going fast, I don't know. I might go with the surly, I guess.
Okay. As you were actually working through your answer, you kind of changed your mind there. But very good. Well, and again, the Crap Vegas boys are the same too. You and I, we will go up to an empty table more often than not because we like that fast game. And we don't know what the vibe is going to be like when we go up to an empty table unless we know the dealers. So
if we're on a table and we're winning, the rolls are going good, and there's maybe just one guy on the table who kind of slows the game down, a lot with whatever his antics are, I can deal with that because then you and I will just make fun of him the whole time, amongst ourselves. And
Mike, there have been plenty of times too where we've been on a full table that maybe is going slow, but we're having a great time. And meanwhile, there's an empty table just a few feet away that we don't go to, even though we know it'll be faster because we're having a good time where we are. Yeah, we'll stay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for us, it is all about having a fun time. But like you said, all things being equal, I like it a little faster. Because I don't want to stand there and watch a guy roll it against the wall 14 times.
Yeah, right. And then immediately 7 out. And then you ask them what
went wrong. I'm surprised we haven't been punched. Really?
We have never asked anybody what went wrong. Unless it's one of our friends.
Hey, what went wrong? Yeah.
I'll ask you. Hey, Mike.
If you're our friend, you get the full brunt.
Why didn't you pass the dice, idiot?
You say that sometimes.
To you.
And other people on the table hear it, and they either look shocked or they like,
wow, he's pretty mad. Yeah, they're agreeing. Right. That guy, Mark, he knows what he's talking about. All right, well, hopefully we answered your question, Tony. Next call.
Hi, guys. Long-time listener, first-time caller. My name is Nish from San Diego. That's Nish. I just wanted to call in with my first trip report. I went to Vegas last weekend with my brother-in-law, who I always go with, and some friends who were new to Vegas. I told them to carve out their Saturday for craps at Ellis Island, as I thought it would be a pretty good beginner spot. They were pretty intimidated at first, but I knew they would get it and love it. Both my brother-in-law and I patiently explained it to them, and at the end, it was 2 a.m. on a Saturday, and we had to tell them it was time to go. They were having so much fun. I'm both happy and I'm a little worried that I've ruined 4 lives. As far as the trip itself, I came out slightly ahead personally, and no one else lost too much money, which was a good trip all around. As for my gambling, I finally felt brave enough to max my odds on a 4 and 10, and oh boy, when that hit, it felt good. Then, of course, I got greedy and started doubling my come bets to double my max bets, and lost a lot of money on that roll to green. My question to you both is, when did you feel like you were ready to, quote-unquote, graduate to higher buy-in tables? Was it a factor of having more of a bankroll in general, or just being more comfortable with the odds and the probabilities and just kind of going for it? Thank you. Big fan.
I think for me, it was bankroll. I guess the general... See, it's interesting because the table limits jumped up after the pandemic. So in some ways, at least I was forced to play at some higher limits than I originally planned to. But then I also changed the way that I played. Instead of maybe a 3-point molly with full odds, I was just placing the 6 and 8 for the minimum, something like that. But if you're sort of asking for advice, I mean, I know it's exciting to bet more. And I know one of the reasons we gamble too is for that excitement and the risk. But really, you shouldn't think about moving up to higher minimums until your bankroll is bigger or until you have more disposable income.
There's the voice of reason.
Take it away, Dr. Mike.
I was born this way. It's a genetic problem.
Yeah.
I know because I've been tested. For me, it's just I like the rush of like full odds, right?
Yeah.
If I don't have full odds and it hits, I feel terrible, even though I just won.
Yeah.
Even when it, maybe I'm only like, a few bucks away from full odds. And when I have full odds, it's like Nish said, I feel like, all right, that 4 hit and, here comes my payment, like $500 or something.
Oh, I know. Well, that was the other thing about Hamul too, 10 times odds for every number. So yeah, when those 4s and 10s hit, that was great.
And it shoots you up. And, we're there to gamble. So we're hoping that we have a run of 4s or 10s or, that's not a reason to, like, if you don't have it, don't play it. But I don't know. I think some people are just scared that way.
Okay. So you don't really have an answer necessarily as like there was some catalyst that made you decide you wanted to jump up. You've just always kind of been that way. And as long as you had the money in front of you to do it, you do
right.
it.
I think it's genetic. It's like a lot of things in life are that way, right? Like you're playing basketball. I played basketball in, high school and stuff. And you're either one of those guys who takes chances and drives in the middle and goes for it, or you're one of the guys that sits back and kind of prefers a slower type game. I think it's just genetic.
There are certainly certain things that we are wired for. And gambling is probably one of those things, right? There's some people not interested at all.
Some people are not interested at all. I mean, like your dad, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
right.
For the longest time, he could just go and just walk through the casino and have no interest in putting a coin in a machine.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh my God, I got to put a coin in, I mean, I got to try this. No.
It's funny too that you mentioned that. I forgot to tell you. When my parents went on their honeymoon, they stopped it might have been Reno. They were honeymooning like up in the San Francisco area. I think they went over, it might have been Reno or Carson City or something. And they hit a slot machine for like $200, $250 or something, which this is the late 50s, right? So that was something.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
Paid for their whole vacation. But again, you're right. That was not like the turning point for my dad, right? They just happened to do it. He was not itching to get back into the casino.
Yeah, it's just some people now. A lot of people would be like, "Oh, we got to do that again."
Right? Remember?
Yeah, my dad and mom actually, when I was little, they toyed with the idea of moving up to St. George from San Diego, and they made several trips up there.
And St. George is where?
St. George, Utah. It's at the.
Of course. Right.
Yeah, it's across the border.
I just wanted to make sure all our listeners knew. But I've been to St. George.
Okay. They drove up there several times to check things out and look at some business opportunities, things like that. And my dad told me this once that they went through there, multiple times and either just drove straight through Vegas or stayed there for the night and then didn't gamble at all. Nothing. Just got a hotel room,
Yeah.
I was like, well, that wouldn't have happened when he was older. But
no way.
At that point, they were in their like 30s, and it was like, that just wasn't something that interested them.
Yeah, later on in life, it'd be, Ruth, let's stop for a little while.
Yeah, they'd be there for 3 days. And I thought we were going to...
All right, next up is Alex.
Hi, guys. This is Alex from Maryland. I've been meaning to call in for a couple of months now with a trip report. The life has been pretty busy. And life has been busy because I recently had a baby girl.
Oh, nice.
Now, here's the question for you guys. My baby's name is Molly, and she is named after her grandmother. But when I told my friends that her name was Molly, I, of course, told her that she's named after the craps strategy, the 3-point Molly. And so it got me thinking, if you guys had to rename all of your children something related to or named after a craps or craps tangentially related term, what would you rename your kids? And as far as my trip report, we went to Vegas back in January, me and my 3 buddies. We had at first just the worst possible luck ever. We played craps at a whole bunch of different casinos, and we not only did not have a winning session, but we did not have a winning shooter. Seriously, not one. And so it was just going horribly. And then we went to the Cromwell after dinner our second night, and we just had the best run that I have ever had. We just couldn't lose. Going around the table, everyone is shooting for 10 or 20 minutes each. I bet on the fire bet when one of my friends was shooting, and sure enough, he made 5 numbers. He came out on the 6th. That number was a 4. I did end up hedging my bet. I don't even know how much. I just emptied my rack and said, lay this on the 4.
Oh, there you go.
And we were really, really hoping that he would hit that 4, but unfortunately, he did not. He 7'd out. I have tried to explain how close I've come to this huge payout to a whole bunch of people who don't play craps, but try explaining not only craps, but the fire bet to people who don't know what they're doing. So I had to call in and just commiserate with you all. And true story, not one shooter later, I bet on the all tall small. She came out and made every number except one. And that one, of course, was also a 4. So I came this close to back just nailing these huge, huge wins. Nonetheless, it was still an awesome win. We had a great time and ended up on the trip. So it really, really turned around. But yeah, so close to just back epic windfall wins. Anyway, I think about it at least 100 times a day, and I'm hoping that we go back soon and actually hit those bets. All right, guys, love the show. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Alex.
See, now there's somebody who's thinking, can't wait to get back, right?
Yeah. Dr. Mike,
Yes.
what would you name your kids if you were going to name one or both of them after a craps term?
Well, on a serious note, I really wanted to name one of the girls Nickel. So, that's kind of a craps thing. Like I'm betting a nickel.
Okay, that's a little something. Any reason behind
Lynn,
nickel?
No, I just thought it'd be fun. Lynn didn't go for that.
It's like George Costanza wanting to,
also,
7, name his kid 7.
Yeah,
It's kind of like,
I was telling her, we can't do nickel. Can we do 7?
Yeah, that's craps too.
Yeah, those are great names. Now I have girls, so if I had boys, of course it'd be hard 10, but
Yeah. All right. You got the slow pitch one on that. Yeah, Dr. Mike. I knew that one of us was going to do that. Yeah, hard 10.
Yeah.
This is hard 10 Stephanitis, my son. Oh,
my son. Imagine in school, teachers, all right, hard 10.
Not Horn High Yo. Maybe that would. What's his name? Horn High Yo?
Horn High Yo. All one word. Horn High Yo.
I think I would have named one of my kids High Low. High-Low Duvall.
High-Low.
Listen to that.
Yeah.
That's a great name. High-Low Duvall.
Oh, that is. High-Low Duvall. Wow. That does sound well.
That or maybe Dice Out.
Dice Out Duvall.
Dice Out Duvall. What? There are a lot of good ones.
How about this? Cocktail! Cigarettes!
That's right. Hands high.
Hands high.
No roll, Duvall. No roll.
Well, these are all fun things to think about, but we're not famous enough to do that. You have to be really famous. And then you can name your kid whatever you want.
I do like High-Low.
Yeah, High-Low Duvall.
Especially with the last name. Yeah.
Well, then you've got to really get your boys married and have kids. So
and convince them. Neither one of them's really a craps player or interested in gambling at all. But
insist on it if they want to stay in the will. I want a child that's named High-Low.
All right. I better get on that and see my lawyer.
See, that goes with girl or boy, too.
Yeah, that's the great thing. High-low, either way. Yeah.
First kid's High-Low. Second kid is Ace Deuce 11.
Oh, there's so many good choices.
Third kid's Horn.
That's right. Center Field 9. We could go here and just name craps terms for the rest of the show, and it would be hilarious. All right, let's move on. I don't want to belabor this.
Yeah, that's the kind of subject you don't want to start me on.
Next call.
Mark and Dr. Mike, this is Dylan from Houston. Finally made it out to Japan. Gambling is illegal in Japan, from my understanding, but gambling is alive and well over there. I walked into this one sort of like half arcade, half coin push / slot parlor, and they even had Fortune Cup, like their own version of Fortune Cup. All the games were extremely complicated. Let me give you an example of one of the versions of coin push they had. It was like a giant carousel where you could seat 10 people. And inside of the carousel, there was like a vertical pachinko aspect to the coin push machine. And then there was also like a little video arcade aspect to it. I couldn't figure out heads from tails from that thing. But went to a pachinko parlor. This is the only gambling I actually did over there. Pachinko is everywhere over there. And they're, again, super complicated seeming, at least, video arcade machines. But really, you get a bunch of metal balls after you insert your money. I inserted about 1,000 yen. It's like $6. There's this flipper that doesn't really feel that tactile. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you press it. It seems like the pressure on the balls are all just kind of automatic. Anyways, after about 20 minutes of not knowing what I'm doing, I'm out of balls, and then I press this button, and then it gives me a card. It looks like a Players Club card or maybe like a hotel key card. And then I was directed to put it in a machine that gave me back 650 yen. So for 20 minutes, that's not a bad loss, and I was able to charge my phone and the USB port in the machines, so that wasn't bad. I did see a poker room. It was closed, unfortunately, so I couldn't see what variant of poker they played, but beneath it was a mahjong room. Probably pronouncing that wrong, don't know how to play that at all, but I saw they were playing 4 to a table with tiles. Anyways, got a trip coming up, April 20th, going to the Golden Nugget for 2 nights, comped, going to try to get some revenge. Anyways, hope you guys are doing well, and thanks.
Yeah, like you said, Mike, mahjong. That's pretty popular here.
Yeah, a lot of people play it here.
Yeah, not just in the Japanese community, yeah. Mike, have you played a lot of pachinko?
No, I mean, I played it before, but not a lot.
When I was a kid, San Diego's a big Navy town. And so a lot of my friends' dads were in the Navy, and they'd be stationed over in Japan, and they'd bring back these pachinko machines.
Yep.
So I'd go over to a friend's house in their garage and just, play forever on it. So it is kind of fun.
Yeah, that's exactly for me, too. A friend had one.
Yeah.
Probably because his dad got it somewhere. But yeah, I played that at his house. He had it in his bedroom.
Oh, yeah, sure. Huge over in Japan. Just,
Yeah. Yeah, why do you think that is?
Well, again, part of the culture, if you grew up with it too.
Well, things come and go. Like I'm sitting here looking right at the Wii, sitting up by the TV there. And, the girls, they used to love to play Wii. Now they occasionally will play it with their friends.
Well, that's not the same at all, Mike, because for two reasons.
But it's just,
your girls are older now.
Right.
That's number one. And number two, Wii is an old system, right?
Yeah,
we're on to the
kids,
Switch now, Mike.
I know, but kids at school still like Wii. They still play it and stuff.
If that's what
it's kind of how things come and go, but pachinko has seemed like it never went away.
Right,
I'm talking about playing it in the 60s, and it's still around. It just doesn't go away. But I guess baseball's still around and football.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Played those in the 60s. Well, not in San Diego, though. You're kind of in a void down there.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah. Actually, the Padres aren't even in town. They've left for Korea, right?
Yeah, but I believe they're going to be returning to actually play their home games here, Dr. Mike. So, nice try.
I don't know. Depends on how things go in Korea.
All right, we'll see. I'm not too concerned. I don't think this is a Chargers situation.
The Dodgers and Padres decide to stay in Korea. Yeah, it's pretty nice over here.
All right, well, thanks for that report from Japan, Dylan. Let's move on to our last call.
Mark and Dr. Mike, this is Brendan from Southwest Florida, formerly Brendan from Cleveland. Have a trip report for you guys from the Seminole Hard Rock in Hollywood, otherwise known as Fort Lauderdale. Anyway, took my family there for a couple nights, had a couple free rooms Sunday and Monday night, decided to take a couple days off from work, take the baby and go spend some time over in Fort Lauderdale. Had a great time. That hotel is absolutely gorgeous. And as you guys know, the Seminoles have purchased the Mirage and plan on building the same hotel that they built in Fort Lauderdale, which is the Big Guitar. The property is absolutely gorgeous. I would probably put it up against any property in Las Vegas. For the most part, gambling went well. To start, I was down about half of my bankroll the first day, which was not entirely great. Played a little blackjack, played a little craps. Most of the minimums were $15 for craps, seems to stay that way. There was a couple $25 tables, but for the most part, you could play $15 craps, 3, 4, 5 times odds. Blackjack was good, about $25 a hand if you wanted to play in what I would call it an auxiliary high limit room, where you would have free drinks, good rules, 6-deck shoe, no mid-shoe entry, stay on all 17s. I even played one time with a high roller who asked the dealer to totally reshuffle the cards, and they did. Anyway, have a little crap story. I was down on my luck, obviously, the first half of the trip, and not going to check out. I had a little bit of time to play. My wife was up packing the room, and I was going to get my last craps fix in. I hop on this table, and he held the dice for an hour. I won all of my money back and $1,000. I was unfortunately that guy who cashed out at the table because it was time for checkout, and I knew my wife was going to be upset at me. I cashed out, and 4 rolls later, he 7'd out after an hour and a half of rolling the dice. But everybody was in good spirits. It was a great time. I think Fort Lauderdale having craps and roulette, I really feel no need to go back to Vegas when I have a Vegas hotel in my backyard. Love what you guys do. Thank you.
Yeah, and Brendan's kind of echoing what we've said in the past. We love Vegas, but the number one reason we love Vegas is for the gambling, and everything else is a far away second place. And we know there are plenty of people who love Vegas for reasons other than gambling, and that's great. And that's why Vegas has had to kind of change itself, is because it's so easy to go to a local casino and get the Vegas experience from a gambling standpoint. And that's kind of what's most important to us.
Yeah, and some of these local casinos, though, are starting to branch out and getting into more shows and
sure,
these venues.
Yeah, I know that.
They're still not Vegas quality, but I'm wondering how long it's going to be before they get there for that too.
Maybe, I don't know. There will never be anything quite like Vegas, I don't think. But again, we're just looking through the gambler's eye, and gosh, Mike, when you were out here, we were talking about Hamul, how close it was to us,
right?
And now it's kind of like real craps, and they don't even have a hotel.
Right.
They certainly don't have a lot of extra things there, but oh my gosh, we'd be there all the time now if you still lived
They're
here.
building a hotel, though.
They are. So. That's true, right? That's true.
Yeah, that would be the place to go. We always used to say, well, we go out to Harrah's, we drive all that way because we get points that are worth getting rooms and stuff in Vegas. Well, if you can just go to Hamul, that in 10 minutes, why do you ever need to go to Vegas if you're just going for gambling?
And again, one of the reasons that we loved going to Harrah's was they gave us so much, and as far as free play and stuff. When I was there with James last week, I just got $20 in free play, and I had to earn 150 tier credits to get it. So, their free play's gone down significantly. I wanted to touch on something here. Brendan was talking about having to cash out in the middle of a roll because you've got to get going. That happened to me one time too. It was the old Las Vegas Hilton, and I had a plane to catch. But, we would never do that without kind of a time crunch reason.
Right.
But we'd probably be better off if we did that more often than sticking around, because you're probably going to end up with more money than if you stick around for, 3, 4, even 5 more rolls.
Yeah, we'll go in to every casino, and before we go to the table, we'll make a reservation somewhere.
Okay.
Just it doesn't have to be food, just anything. Oh, I'm getting a facial at 4. I've got to cash out at 3:55.
We'll see if that works.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it won't.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that would compel me to leave except for my wife.
That's right. Not even a plane flight. Like, I can catch a later flight.
Yeah, there's all kinds of planes. But yeah, I only have one wife, so I have to.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We want to thank some people for some recurring donations. From Kurt, from Robin Aubin at Anytime Gambling, from Nathan, and from Brian Dancer. Thank you very much for those recurring donations. We also got a donation from listener Todd. Quarterly donation. Love the show. Thank you for the education and entertainment. Well, thank you very much, Todd. And we got a nice card from listener Jessica. I'll read a little bit here. Dear Mark and Dr. Mike, just wanted to send a little something your way as an expression of my gratitude for your show. I fully appreciate learning more about craps, and your delivery of information isn't just informative, it's really fun. Please accept this small token of gratitude, and she included a nice little donation. Knowing what you do makes a difference. Will be a while before I have a trip report, putting my betting at the craps and blackjack table on hold for other, more focused saving for now. Don't worry, I plan to hit the felt again, sporting my YCBOT shirt and representing the coolest cats in podcasting. Much love from Missouri, Jessica. Well, thank you very much, Jessica.
Cool cats. I like that.
That's us. I'll tell you,
Yeah.
that's one thing. If you look at me and Dr. Mike, maybe you see us there standing at the table, first thing you think of is cool cats.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the first thing you think of.
Hey, at the top of our webpage, you'll find a link to our store where you can buy You Can Bet on That t-shirts. Also, you can find a list of all the gambling-related shows coming up on American television at youcanbetonThat.com/TV-listings. And we've got a list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonThat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512 wagers.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonThat@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter at YouCanBetOnThat and on Facebook at Facebook.com/YouCanBetOnThat. Now, we are recording this episode the day before our semi-annual poker tournament. So even though this drops on Monday, we don't know the results of that tournament yet. So hopefully everything went well. But of course, the most important thing, Mike, March Madness starts this week.
Yes. Oh, gosh. I'm loving it, Mark.
Yeah. Oh, just even leading up to it, it's been exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. There's all these tournaments. As a matter of fact, Mark, this is how great my life is.
Yes.
I am sitting here doing the podcast with you, wearing sweatpants, no shoes, my Aztec basketball shirt, and I'm watching the Aztecs and New Mexico play for the championship in the Mountain West Conference. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, right?
No, it doesn't, Dr. Mike.
It's 6:00 here, and I'm sure Lynn's got some dinner cooking. I mean, this is paradise, Mark. Now, if they lose, then I'm going to have to write a surly worded letter to the
I understand.
To the admissions office at San Diego State and ask them why don't they admit better players.
Now, you claim that you're in paradise, but let me ask you this, Dr. Mike. Today is National Corn Dog Day. And my son Charles and I went to Wiener Schnitzel where they had 4 corn dogs for $4 and we chowed down. You live in this so-called paradise. Where's your closest Wiener Schnitzel?
Well, there aren't any close here. I don't even know if they have them in the state of Minnesota. But I can walk from my house. It's maybe a quarter mile to a Quick Trip that does sell corn dogs all the time.
All right. Well,
now they're not $1, but I could get a corn dog.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're good.
So they're a corn dog, Mark. That's and that's what's important, that I can get them.
Okay, you got it, Mike. I'll give it to you.
I wouldn't want to live like in Antarctica where there is just absolutely no way you get a corn dog. I mean, there's just no way.
There's no way. All right. Well, enjoy the tournament, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Yep. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Oh, sweet mother, I love you, Dr. Mike.